Our second guest of the day, and joining us again on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline, is the always great Mark Durrant, former BYU basketball star and current BYU radio basketball analyst. Mark, welcome back to BYU Sports Nation.
Oh, thank you. Always a pleasure to be on with you, brethren.
Hey, I heard that you said, and I conveniently wasn't here last time when you said this, that it wasn't really that big of a deal if I was gone as a co-host, but that if Jerem was gone, it was a really big deal. So we're bringing you on, and you have an opportunity to now apologize to me in front of the national public.
Not only am I not going to apologize, but in the spirit of my hero, Donald Trump, I'm going to double down on what I said and say, you're ugly, you're a liar, your hands are tiny, you've got minuscule hands, you're a huge loser, you're a very slow runner, one of the slowest runners I've ever seen. You have a bad brain, your words are not the best words, and we all know that Jerem is like Melania. He's gorgeous, vivacious, charming, and so I'm going to stick with what I said, but that's not to say that I don't love you.
Well, that certainly wasn't what I expected it to be. Mark Durrant with us on BYU Sports Nation, doubling down on his comments that Jerem is a big deal and I am not. Okay, you know what? Whatever. I appreciate that, and I love you regardless. Now, the thought of you in New York City, Mark, has quite the tone of awesomeness and a ton of possibilities. So what's on your agenda other than BYU basketball in the Big Apple?
Well, you know, some of us radio guys have real-life jobs, unlike some people that I won't mention, Greg Rubel. So my law firm, Dorsey & Whitney, actually has an office in Manhattan. So I'm going to work a couple days, but I'm going to bring my son Jordan, and we're going to make a vacation out of it. I always like to bring one of my kids on these trips, and it's a great opportunity. So we're going to see the sights, stay a couple days, do all that kind of stuff. So as some of the things that I normally would do, the crazy stuff, you know, that I'm so well known for, I'm going to have to curtail a little bit with my son with me. But no, I took my son George the last time we went back there for the NIT. It was just an amazing trip, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So we're going to make the most of it, and hopefully BYU can win a couple games, and we can enjoy that side of it as well.
Mark, how has your opinion of BYU and the NIT changed now that they have advanced to the Final Four in New York?
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys know, I mean, it's the NIT, and we all get that, and it's not anywhere that BYU wanted to be, but they're here now, and once you're in a tournament, and like I've said, you know, imagine this tournament at the beginning of the year with this field, and if BYU won that tournament, how excited people would be, and this is a great field, and I don't care what you want to say about the NIT and the NCAA, but if BYU wins this tournament, that's a significant accomplishment. So the fact that they've played very good teams, it's been a lot of fun to watch. They've played good basketball. They've been consistent. They've done what they needed to do, fought through to get some wins, and now they're in New York City. That's a big deal. And I get that it's the NIT, but to get to this point, you've played great basketball, and it's a big deal to me. It's a big deal to these young men that are playing, to the coaches, and I think it should be for the fans. You don't have to be embarrassed about being in the NIT, fans. You have my permission, Mark Durrant's permission, to be proud about being in the NIT and be excited about this team and the opportunity they have.
Mark Durrant, former BYU basketball star and radio analyst, joining us on BYU Sports Nation right now. He's headed to New York City to cover BYU in the NIT Final Four at Madison Square Garden. That game next Tuesday, 7 Eastern, 5 Mountain. We've asked our BYU Sports Nation fans today what makes this BYU team most fun to watch right now. We have referenced that this is the team that scored the most points of any individual season, over 3,000. They've made the most three-pointers. They have a guy that has 12 triple-doubles. For you, Mark, what's the most fun thing to watch about this BYU basketball team?
Well, I mean, it's hard to nail it down to one thing. I think watching these young freshmen, Nick Emery and Zach Sellius, is a blast to watch. I mean, we're watching Nick Emery. He's doing things that no other freshman has ever done except maybe Danny Ainge. So he's one of the all-time great freshmen. And Zach is Mr. Clutch. I mean, he's never met a clutch shot that he didn't like, and watching him play is a lot of fun. Then you got one of the best three-point shooters ever at BYU in Chase Fisher. Then you got a guy in Kyle Collinsworth doing what no one has ever done in the entire game of college basketball in its entire history. And then they score a lot of points, and it's just a fun style of basketball initially to begin with, but I think the personalities are fun to watch. Chase is a riot. He's an interesting guy, and I mean it's a neat group. And you got Nate Austin, a workman-like type guy that reminds me of myself. You know, I wasn't much of a scorer, but I tried to work hard and get rebounds, and so I have an affinity for him. And he's such a great person. That's one of the great things, and you guys know this about doing the jobs that we do, is we get to associate with these young men and the coaches, and they're great. So you get really invested in them, and you want to see them be successful, and it's nice to see them getting some success and having some recognition.
Mark, since we've spent most of the show discussing living in the now and not looking forward, I'm going to completely throw that on its ear and ask you what the possibility of a BYU-San Diego State matchup means to you.
Well, I mean, obviously, long history. Watching my brother play against those guys back in the early '80s, Michael Cage. I mean, these guys before either one of you were born. But then playing against them, they weren't that great when I played about that time, but they got us once or twice, and that was a lot of fun. And then, watching them over the years, they've turned into just an amazing program. But the thing that anytime I think of San Diego State, I always go to that last game at Viejas and with Jimmer, and that amazing year, and they were in the top 5, BYU's top 5 team, and I can just remember Kawhi Leonard, maybe one of the best players in the NBA, and 2 other San Diego State guys meeting Jimmer at half court, triple teaming him to try and stop him, and they couldn't do it. That was an amazing win, a lot of fun, and so I've got that good memory going into that possible championship game, and that, anytime you have a chance, they did get to play in Maui last year, but anytime you get a chance to play an old rival like that, it makes it extra special. So that would be fun. But I tell you what, I watched that Valpo St. Mary's game, and they looked pretty good. So BYU's certainly got their hands full dealing with Valpo.
Mark, let's finish with Kyle Collinsworth and the individual discussion surrounding him. We just asked Blaine Fowler, where does he belong in the discussion of all-time great basketball players at BYU? And I definitely want your opinion on that as well.
Well, I didn't hear what Blaine said, so I'm hesitant to answer that because I always want to agree with Blaine Fowler.
It's a smart way to live your life, Mark.
But I'd say he's definitely in the top 5. And now people put such an emphasis on scoring, and rightly so. I mean, that's a big deal. But he leads he has the record for rebounds and assists, and he's up there in steals, and he's a top 10 type scorer. For one guy to do all that, he's definitely in my top 5. He's just an unreal athlete, the likes of which I don't know we've ever seen at BYU. If only he could shoot a little bit better, there would be no discussion. He may surpass Jimmer and Danny for the greatest player, but all around athlete player, no question to me, he's in the top 5.
Mark, great stuff, man. We wish you safe travels to New York City, and we always appreciate you taking some time for BYU Sports Nation.
Anytime, guys. And Spencer, I love you.
I love you too, man. Mark Durrant on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, your values, your timeline, your financial future.